Vernomatic Productions.
Are you ready?
Live from the Metal Mayhem Studios in Rochester, New York.
We are gold.
And heard around the world by metalheads just like you. This is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Heavy metal music.
Your weekly dose of metal music, interviews, album reviews, news, and more. Want to be part of the show? Send us a message through our website, metalmayhemroc.com, or hit us up on Facebook and Twitter. Search Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team.
It's getting nice and heavy.
Now, welcome our hosts, John the Vernomatic Verno, and direct from New Jersey, Metal Walt.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everyone's enjoying the crispness of fall. I'm up here on the rock and things are changing quickly. But tonight, Metal Walt's here with another kick-ass episode of our Rock and Roll Detention series. He welcomes Ken Tamplin. Now, Ken's a renowned singer and founder of the Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. Ken's here to share his journey from Christian rock musician to vocal coach, revealing behind-the-scenes stories from working with rock legends Kiss on the Revenge, Carnival of Souls, and Gene Simmons' Vault project. He's here to tell us about why and how he turned down opportunities to sing with Motley Crue, Foreigner, and Humble Pie. And he's also discussing the impact of AI on music and how tools like ChatGPT can now mimic real vocals. This guy's a killer vocal guy. He's trained and helped some of the best singers in the world continue their careers. Journey, Meatloaf, Trans-Siberian Orchestra, tons and tons of performers. It's a good listen. But before we get into it, don't forget to visit metalmayhemroc.com, sign up for the newsletter, stay updated on all our content up here. YouTube interviews, CD reviews, new podcast shows, concert reviews, and also check out the merch page. We got tons of cool merch there. New hoodies coming for the fall. We have some Metal Mayhem ROC hats, winter hats. And I'm even thinking about maybe some MMROC gloves. Hey, sky's the limit. But again, that's metalmayhemroc.com. All right, well, let's get into this. Metal Walt and Ken Tamplin from the Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy. I'm the Vernomatic, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Ah, look, you're back in detention.
Got it.
But this time, you won't be throwing pencils up into the ceiling tiles the entire time.
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horn.
Your proctors expect you to be on your worst behavior as they give you remedial instruction in the history of hard rock and metal.
You going to school?
Hey, settle down. Here's Metal Walt with your rock and roll detention.
We're joined by Ken Tamplin, singer, teacher, and founder of the Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy for a special edition of Rock and Roll Detention. We're going to go hear all about Ken's history as a Christian rock musician, his thriving business, and then we're going to go in depth and talk about our rock and metal heroes and how their pipes have held up through the years. So, Ken, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
My pleasure.
So I'm in New Jersey. I go by the name of Metal Walt. And I gather you're in, is it Sedona, Arizona?
Yeah, I'm actually in Flagstaff, which is about an hour north of Sedona. And I moved here about 6 years ago from originally Southern California, then Hawaii, and then here.
Okay. All beautiful parts of the country. So it was funny when we were thinking about this episode, I was going back in time to my freshman year in college in 1989 at Montclair State University in college. And I took a vocal class, and I remember it like it was yesterday. It was with a woman called Miss Lowe. And I always remember her telling me, Lance, she would say, proper singing starts at the bottom of the stomach and you work your way up. You don't sing from your throat. You don't sing for your nose category. You work it through your stomach and up through your lungs, and your nose and your mouth are only the output of your breathing.
You know, it's interesting because that's a very prescient comment to make, only because not very many people understand it in that context of coming from the lower abdominal cavity. People don't realize there's two diaphragms. There's one at the pelvic floor, one underneath the rib cage, which is your main respiratory response muscle for breathing. And so people don't realize that it does work its way up like that. Otherwise, you mount tension in the chest and the neck and the throat, and the rest is history.
See that. And it's funny. You think about like modern day, let's say what interests the kids. Like I have a 10-year-old daughter and she's always on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram. And it's kind of refreshing, Ken, that you're actually out there, you know, training and refreshing not just amateurs, but experts and veterans in rock music. Because like this day and age of like auto-tune and speed up, it can't be good. And I think of like, I don't know if you saw this, the Major League Baseball All-Star game, there was a big debacle with the national anthem. This girl, I had never heard of her, Ingrid Address. And I know, granted, she admitted she was drunk and she checked into rehab, but
she claimed to be drunk. You know, I've unfortunately, I'm working my way to staying sober over the last 5 years now. But I mean, I've been pretty drunk and have never sung that bad.
Well, it makes you wonder. You're right. It makes you wonder. Was she actually capable of getting out there with no computer behind her, a laptop, and sing?
It doesn't make sense to bash on other people in their moment of weakness. But I will say that what's important is that we just strive towards just getting better at what we do. You know what I mean?
You go.
And so, yeah.
There you go. So, Ken, we want to cover off on a lot of stuff today, but I think it's important. I want to get a little bit of your back history. So, like, one of the standard questions that I like to ask all artists is talk about your upbringing. Like, what music was played in your home? What was, you know, what were your parents playing, your grandparents? How'd you get into rock? How'd you become a singer?
Well, the Reader's Digest version, which means the short version, you know, I grew up kind of basically on Led Zeppelin and Aerosmith and all the bands we loved as kids. I'll be 61 this year. So, you know, I've been around for a bit. I remember going to the movie theater, the matinee, you know, the movie theater at La Mirada movie theater and learning Song Remains the Same by bringing my guitar, checking it at the ticket office, going in, watching Jimmy Page play the live version of the Rain song or whatever, writing out real quick and trying to remember what he did. Now today we have YouTube and, you know, Jimmy Page himself is like teaching you. People still can't do it because they're too overwhelmed. Kind of funny age that we live in now. But yeah, so I did grow up on that. Now later, yeah, as you mentioned me being a Christian, I definitely am. You know, I saw a lot of Christian fundamentalists kind of burning their records and stuff. I'm like, right. So I'm like, I had a hard time with that, to be honest. And I'm thinking of, you know, a lot of bands that I grew up on where, you know, I listened just to the greats, you know, like I said, I mean, and it could have been Elton John. It could have been ELO. Like I said, it could have been Led Zeppelin. It could have been Aerosmith, The Who, like whoever. But I had an older brother. He was 6 years older than me. He was the one that actually taught me how to play guitar. And I wasn't a singer. I didn't sing until I didn't even dabble in it until I was about 18, 19 when I joined my first professional band. And the only kind of real reasons that I wanted to sing was I didn't want to have to depend on the singer. They sucked. And so they brought in their girlfriends with an attitude and a golden microphone and didn't help the drummer unload. You know, so there's that part of it. I went, okay, I just need something to get me between my guitar solos. So in Stevie Ray Vaughan fashion, I just like, you know, whatever, couldn't stand the weather. So I couldn't stand other singers. Anyway, so I wound up learning by osmosis. And then in this band, Joshua, that I was in for 4 years, they had this revolving door of singers, and he was a very demanding guy, and understandably so. He wanted Steve Perry, Mickey Thomas, you know, real high range singing. Mm-hmm. That wasn't me. I was like a sing, you know, low at best. And then it really kind of forced my hand to want to learn how to sing. So I wasn't born a singer. I know, yes, Sandy Hager's my cousin. Got that out of the way, whatever. But I had to do this by osmosis. I didn't end up in Montrose at 20 like Sam. I was a guitar player, you know what I mean? And then a backup singer at best. Probably wasn't until I was about 23, 24, 25 when it still started to kind of click to go, you know what? My voice is an instrument. And just like my guitar, I could teach myself with the right training. And boy, is that hard to find, but the right training to get what I needed. And that's where I ended up.
Wow. So, yeah. So again, your musical history, just looking at like your discography, I mean, wow, I didn't realize you've got like 30 plus albums. I mean, solo albums. Joshua. And it's
Actually,
interesting.
I've recorded over 50 records. I have 40 of my own, 30 of which have my own name on them, not like Shout or Joshua or something else. But yeah, so I've recorded about 50 records now.
Wow, that's quite an accomplishment. And I was looking at Joshua, and you were in them, but there's also some good company. Us being a hard rock heavy metal brand here. I mean, Jeff Fenholt was in that group. Now, Jeff has this little itsy bitsy piece in the Black Sabbath history, having had rumored to, maybe doing a little rehearsing and writing with Tony Iommi around the Seven Star era. But Rob Rock, Alex Lagertwood from Santana, and then, of course, Mark Bowles, who's played with everybody from Dokken to Yngwie. And it seems like one of your, more common collaborators that you worked on with Magdalene and Shout was Lanny Cardola of House of Lords, right?
Yes. So backing up the Fenholt thing, in his defense, he was actually the very first lead role playing Christ of Jesus Christ Superstar. So I know maybe you've got the metal thing, but Ian Gillan and then Jeff Fenholt, you know what I mean? So kind of put him in the same category just out of respect for him. But yeah, Lanny was my guitar teacher when I was like 16, 17. So it was kind of sad and funny all at the same time. And he cleaned up his act later, but he lived in a nice trailer park in Santa Fe Springs, California. And so I would go see his band American Heroes, which he was in, which two of the original members of that band was Lauren Robinson and was it Joey Galetta? Yeah, I think Joey was. Anyway, and they actually became the rhythm section for Joshua later, which was interesting. But he is my guitar teacher. And so I would go to the Troubadour and I'd go to, I don't know, Kazari's or whatever. And I'd watch him till 2 or 3 in the morning on a Friday going into Saturday morning. And then my guitar lesson was at 9 a.m. on Saturday. And so I'd drive up to his place after only being awake sleep for 4 or 5 hours. And I'd have to kick like 2 girls out going, dude, this is my lesson. And I'd get my Saturday lesson, and I did that for a couple, 3 years. He's an amazing guitar player. But that actually went on for a while. And I'd have to remove the dross and get my lesson in 9 or 10 in the morning, after his shows. I'd go see the show and I'd go back, whatever. So yeah,
hey, that's very rock and roll, man. That's a rock and roll story.
There's a rich history in LA of a lot of that. So anyway,
yeah, well, that's how it's supposed to go right back then, right? So and I see, and I see, Ken, that you have actually a product coming out as of the day we're airing this or recording this tomorrow. I believe you have a Stand Up and Shout 4 CD box set due out. So what's that all about?
Well, so a lot of people couldn't get a lot of the Shout stuff, Tamplin stuff that I had from before. It's available at, at exorbitant prices on eBay. Like my Axe to Grind records, go for $50 for a CD and stuff. And people aren't even really even buying hard copy printed stuff anymore. So I thought it'd be kind of cool for the old school guys that just wanted to get some of the creme de la creme of what we have. We did a lot of remixes and a lot of re-singing and a lot of, stuff just to make it interesting. And I put out 69 songs, I think, is on there for a very nominal amount of money. So by the way, it's going to work in concert with something else that's happening on my YouTube channel. We are on the brink, believe it or not, of hitting 200 million views on my YouTube channel. So we're going to work that out with a show that we have coming up in Versailles, Ohio at the BMI Center. And they're putting on, these different, it's called the Immortal Festival. It's for all the people that haven't died yet. Anyway, and so we're going to do a Tamplin Shout, reunion gig. I've got all my guitars laid out and I've been practicing and I'm really, wow, I can't believe I really worked that hard in my 20s and 30s to pull this off, because I did a lot of touring and I realized how hard it really is. So anyway, the box set is due out, and thank you for even remembering that. But and we're going to do something special. I can't promise this in this kind of way, but if you want it signed, if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, it's going to probably take me a month or 2 to get it back to you. I will sign it. I will send it back. You know, a 4268 East Coburn Drive, Flagstaff, Arizona 86009. It's going to be on the, the thing when you buy it. And I'll do it. I'll sign it, autograph it for you, send it back, and you're good to go.
Okay, well, we'll make sure we include your socials at the end of the show so that it'll be included in the episode so our fans can find out where to buy this stuff. But listen, Ken, we want to get into the Vocal Academy business, but I have one more question about your back history. There are rumors out there that you sang off stage for Kiss. So set the record straight. Were you actually singing for Kiss live in the 80s, early 90s, off stage, off camera?
I never sang for them live. I recorded a lot of music for Kiss. I'd love to say I got credit for a lot of this stuff that I did. As is true for a lot of people, I only got credit for maybe 7 or 8 songs, I think, or something like that. You know, I did work with Bob Ezrin in the studio with, I forget the producer of Faith No More. He was producing and engineering, I think, on that album. That's when he did God Gave Rock and Roll to You and all that stuff with the soundtrack. And I wrote quite a few songs with Gene. I did do quite a few songs on the Vault that he had. In fact, I think I'm the number 1 or 2 first songs, and I forget how many after that, of the demos that we did that he after they're done. I don't want to say plagiarizing. After they're done using what they can for the rest of their other records, then they, use it for whatever. Hey, Gene's a businessman. And, the guy you gotta, for a bass player that, Gene, I don't care if you hear this, that's not that great, and you're an amazing marketing guy, you've done a hell of a job. That's all I can say.
So what were some of the songs? Like, give me some of the songs. Like, are you at liberty to say?
Like Domino, and there's if you go through what is it? The something vinyl confessions. I forget even the name of the albums now. I've done a lot of music. In fact, I've done a lot of music for film and television. When you look at my wall up there, those are just everything from Baywatch to X-Files that I was like a composer on. So like I've done a lot of music over the years, so it's hard to remember everything. Anyway, I want to say if you go to, I think Vinyl Confessions was an album that I have 1 or 2 songs on. And then there was another album that I had something on, the one right after that. And then the Vault, Gene's The Vault thing that he hand carried to people's houses for, $1 million or whatever it was. Anyway, I had like 6 or 7 or 8 songs, and some of those, some iterations of my music was permeated throughout Kiss material over those years or whatever. And yeah, that's it. Gene is Gene. It's
okay.
We're going to leave it at that.
So next time I spin the song Domino, I'm going to think about what parts have Ken played in this thing.
I mean, go to, if you just Google it, Google Ken Tamplin Gene and, you'll see it. So,
okay. That's good stuff though. Maybe some little known facts there. So, Ken, appreciate the back history about your career, but let's get into the Vocal Academy business. And, I'm going to ask you the questions like, okay, how did you start it and why? But what I think is really, really cool and very modern and forward thinking is how much emphasis you put on your socials, like your YouTube channel, and you go to your website. I mean, not only do you see your clients there singing songs, but you put yourself out there. There's clips of you singing Deep Purple, Dio, Rainbow, some stuff with Jeff Scott Soto. But, just talk about this business. How did you get into it and why? And like, what's your general philosophy and approach behind how you attack your business?
Well, you did send me in advance some things you wanted to talk about other artists that maybe could have fared better, and some artists that have done great. Yep. And so I'll just break into it. I'm not looking to create any enemies whatsoever. So I'm going to be, I don't know what these are conservative, but I'll be as judicious as I can as far as how I feel about it. As I said, I'll be 61. I've never sung better. Let me say it again. How many people can say that they World Cup soccer, if they were going to go in a World Cup and they were going to go out and do whatever they do, that they could say that they've never performed better? Well, that's true for me, but it's only true because I understood the math and the science behind the voice. So at the beginning of this interview, you asked me, how long, what did you learn? You learned how to sing, and wow, was it until you were 25? So I applied early Bel Canto. By the way, people think they understand what these words mean. They don't. They think they do. They don't.
I don't.
Early Bel Canto, operatic style of singing. Well, I always say, because you said you understand a belly breathing from the bottom up, and that is a Bel Canto interest. So it took me, I studied with Ron Anderson, the late Ron Anderson, who was the premier vocal coach for American Idol, a lot of shows. And worked with everybody from Vince Neil to Chris Cornell to you name it. I could go down a giant list of people that Ron had worked with. I studied him for like 12 years, long time. And the interesting part about that was I would be in a lesson, and the kinds of people, Dawkins would be walking in 1 minute, the next minute Jack Russell would be leading, the next minute Klaus Meine would be leading, the next minute Barbara Streisand would be leading, the next minute Neil Diamond would be leading, the next minute, like, just this purveyor belt of like, oh, yeah, I am not worthy, right? And then there's Ken Tamplin, So, but it was interesting because I did study with Seth Riggs. I did study with the late, Maestro David Kyle, or Dr. David Kyle, Maestro Kyle. I did study with like a lot of these great teachers, but Leone Maggieri, Pavarotti's vocal coach of 53 years, and Ron were probably the two people that helped me the most really understand what it was like to maintain good vocal health. And the things that Leone said that were really interesting were that the deeper the roots, the taller the trees, as you get older, you have to warm up longer. The voice needs elasticity. You got to learn how to stretch the voice and train just like you would in or any aerobic sort of thing for the voice. And all these things started to make sense to me more and more later. So as I've seen a lot of these contemporaries of mine lose their voices, and I could mention a lot of names, and I don't really have the legal privilege of, you had said, I want to know, who you're working with. Out of a professional courtesy, that's just not cool to, if they don't want you to know that, whatever. I can say some names like John Corabi, for example. Nikki Sixx denied this, and the key's full of shit. But anyway, Bud Prager back in the day, when Vince left the band, blah, 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 they had an altercation. They were looking for singers, and their management company, which included, Doc McGee, et cetera, had said, hey, would you like to do the band? And what they sang wasn't what I wanted to sing about. And he even made a comment like way back in Rolling Stone, I think it was saying something like, I guess, Ken Tamplin was my first choice, but I guess he wanted to sing about something else. And then later he said he didn't even know me. Oh, dude, whatever. Kat Von D is a close friend of mine. It was your fiance who you're kidding me, right? But in rock and roll, you have to make your rock and roll statements. I get it, whatever. Anyway, but the bottom line is, ironically, when John Corabi took the band, he goes, dude, I did you a favor, and he meant it. And so, I was helping him get on the Dead Daisies tour because you're going to bring up Glenn Hughes, who was the singer before that, blah, blah, blah. Glenn is fared incredibly well. Glenn's done amazing. And he understands a lot of things. He uses a lot of head voice, and he's taking care of himself alcoholically in a lot of other ways, and which is really cool. Whereas a lot of other people that we know that you're going to want to address the Vince Neils and and by the way, so there was a moment, how do I be careful in saying this? There was a moment when there was a possibility of me working in the KISS camp. It's a real sensitive subject. Anyway, I believe that all that could have been avoided. I really do. I believe that Paul Stanley, had he done the work, had the right information, was willing to put in the work, believed in the work. That's really important, because if you don't believe in it, you won't pursue it in the way that it's going to work. A lot of that could have been avoided, but that's not what happened. That's true with Vince. So Vince, he went down that road. Now, Ron taught Axl. Ron, go on Ron's website. You'll see pictures of Ron and Axl. Did he stay doing the work? Did he stay doing the stretching? Did he stay doing the exercise? No, he didn't. He did not. Chris did to some degree, Cornell. Chester Bennington, too, was a student of Rod's. He did to some degree, God rest their souls, for lots of weird, different reasons, as you and I might, have weird opinions on how they died and why. But in the end, I know for a fact that it works. And I know that I have been able to help a lot of people in the process. Now, when you talk about Steven Tyler, a couple vocal surgeries later, a lot of the stuff that happened, one of his daughters contacted me one time and said, I want to get my dad a present and I don't know what to get him. And, he goes around singing, or there was some, a long time ago, I did this, hey, this thing. And I guess he walked around the house singing this thing. So I wound up doing that for him live as like a birthday present. She was going to give me backstage passes. He wound up going on The Voice on American Idol, at the time. And so I never pursued that. But nonetheless, he actually, believe it or not, did try to do the work. Like he was in it. He owned up, boned up, and did it. And he, after his surgeries, he really worked at it. And so there are people like that have done it. But almost all of the guys that we know, almost all of them, except Dio and, guys that we love and respect, including Coverdale, who's just, gone down in best of places. When they did the work and they stayed doing the work, they were successful. When they didn't, don't think that you're going to be able to step into a World Cup soccer level that you were in your 30s and not rehearse and practice and do the things you need to do. Yep. And the information is really hard to come by. It's not like, I'm going to do a few scales today, more about my voice. It's not about that.
Metal Mayhem ROC.
I'm Metalhead.
Metal Mayhem ROC is the home for metal from the very beginnings.
This is James DeBerre from Hellstar. You're listening to Burnomatic.
Dave Overkill from the Cleveland band Destructor. Hey, Dave, how are you?
I'm doing great.
To longtime headliners.
Hey, this is Red Beach from Whitesnake.
Hey, this is Vinny Appice from Dio, Black Sabbath, and Last in Line.
To music of today.
Hi, this is Olaf Wickstrand from Enforcer.
Hi, this is Braun from Mastodon.
You're listening to Metal Mayhem ROC.
With John the Vernomatic Burner.
Plus, we talk with producers and authors to give you behind-the-scenes info.
Hi, this is William Merwin, author of The Meaning of Metallica, Ride the Lyrics.
Greg Renoff, the author of the book Van Halen Rising and the Ted Templeman book, A Platinum Producer's Life in Music.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Metal Mayhem ROC, a proud member of the Pantheon podcast team, giving you more to listen for. Join our community, and always remember to keep it heavy.
I wanted to ask you questions again about your business, because I do want to get into some of our rock stars, some specifics, but you feature on your website some of the prominent singers of the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Kayla Reeves, who I've seen TSO 5-6 times in New Jersey. I remember her well. I think she sang some Sabotage material on the tours. Dean Castronova, you feature Mark Hudson of Dragonforce, Caleb Johnson, who plays in what might be the best recreation of the classic Meatloaf, who's also in TSO, Jeff Scott Soto. And I got to give you credit, Ken, because again, going back to your marketing, I've caught your stuff on bravewords.com. So you do feature some of your material. And what I like is some of your, let's say, professionals or semi-professionals, or maybe even amateurs. You're doing a great thing by picking songs from Judas Priest and Whitesnake and Motley Crue and Queen, and you're getting them out to the masses for an average listener like me to say, oh, who the hell's this Vocal Academy guy? Oh, check it out. Look at one of his clients. Listen to the progression of this person. Now, click. I want to go to their YouTube. I want to go to their Facebook, their Instagram, and their TikTok and check out more of it. So nice job there.
Thank you. So, as a small footnote to that, I have tried hard, and I'll continue to try to do new music. And it's really hard because it's never attained or achieved the level of the classics that you've mentioned. And so it forces me to go back to say, this has a shelf life of 50 years or 40 years. This has a shelf life of 1 year. And, what's... door number 1, number 2, number 3. What do I choose? So we go back to say our goal is to take my method, and this is not again a re-promotion of what I teach, but it's the truth. Is to say, how did they get there? Now, you're not going to like this. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All of us guys, and go ahead and hit the prohibit sign and put the line through me and do whatever you got to do. I don't care. We never thought, growing up in the late 60s, early 70s, mid 70s, we never thought of Elton John being a great singer.
Mm-hmm.
We never thought of Paul McCartney being a great singer. When I was signed to Music for Nations and Metallica was on Nations. Yeah. So in LA, there was so much kind of good going on that a lot of the consensus of a lot of people didn't say, oh, these guys were amazing. Poison, these bands. Now Coxon, yeah, there's Jimmy. You know what I mean? But in the end, we didn't think of those bands as being great. Is that a weird concept to you? It might be, or it might not be. Stick the prohibit sign, put the pitchfork in my brain. I don't care. This is truly what was going on. Now, in contrast to that, if you had Lemmy from Motorhead, we are not worthy, we are scum, we would go see Lemmy and Motorhead and we would get it. But then we would go to, we called them mostly crud. We'd go to Motley Crue, we go, I mean, there was Weir that never got the acclaim that he deserved. There was so many bands that were so good that, you know, and I know that, like, speaking of Metallica, and you saw the Anvil story, you know, Anvil, it was between Anvil and Metallica. They're both metal, you know, so the label went with Metallica and Anvil never got noticed. And there's a whole movie about it. That's the truth, though. Like, that's really what was going on. And there was so much competition. And you'd go to Rat, you know, bunch of screaming. You know, Martini on guitar. You get these two amazing guitar players. There's no doubt. Don Dawkins, love Don. He helped Joshua get signed. Nothing bad to say about Don. He helped me to introduce me to Dieter Durst. Good stuff. Was he Klaus Meine, which he was trying so desperately hard to be? Was it that? No, it really wasn't. I'm going to get the axe for this. You guys are going to like, Lizzie Borden took an axe, gave Ken Tamplin 40 whacks, you know. But in the end, the bands that were like really good was Cinderella. Like, honestly, like T, like, you know, we're looking at, and they never got the acclaim. They never got, not Bon Jovi status. And I know John brought, you know, the whole thing with Cinderella and all that. But in the end, like, and it was, and then the ultimate, and I need ultimate slap in the face for all of us was Steelheart. When Steelheart didn't make it to that level, we all went, it is over. It's over. If that band can't make it, he's cute, guitar player's great singing, high singing, killer songs, live performance. It was just like, you got to be kidding me. So for me, as I dig back, this all goes back to the question you sent me, all these questions. When I go back to what level of success I want to attain at that level of singing, performing, whatever, I have to go back to that because nothing has even come close to achieving or attaining. I know there's some good bands out there, and I can name a few. There's some good bands out there. In fact, yeah, we can talk about this maybe another session, but is it will we ever see another Led Zeppelin? Will we ever see another Boston? Will we ever, I mean, I could go down this Kansas, like, doesn't matter, you know, and in the end, you know, I have to go back to that because for me, that's my bar and I want to beat it. Yeah. I want to take that, beat it. If you go to Gabriella's version of Hold the Line by Toto, please do. Gabriella, Gonchikova, Toto, Hold the Line. did she fare up with, and by the way, Bobby Kimmel and I are old friends, and he goes, she told me you're going to take that video down. This is disgraceful. Wow. He's cute. Like, it's so not like you go but he was like going, you took it to another level. And then there's the world of AI, and Ken Tamplin is over here, and AI is over here, and that's
that's why I said it at the top of the hour. I'm so pleased that you're not falling into the trap of the TikTok auto-tune speed up AI generation. And there's real artists there that want to learn how to sing, and be better, whether they're guys that have been doing it for 40, 50 years or up and coming people. Again, I'll go back to your TSO females, right? These are seasoned musicians. They've been out on tour for 5, 10, 15 years with the band. They're good at what they do, yet they're still striving to be better with you.
Well, because they're musicians. They are musicians. We never, I hope to the day we die, we still try. You know what? I want to show you something. I just sang something. I'm kind of singing nasally, right? Okay, so I put that out of curiosity into ChatGPT to see what it would come up with in reproducing my vocal. Okay, so I know this is going on with Paul McCartney, all these people right now, because CBS is doing this now, Sony's doing this. This is the reproduction of me putting in, I think it was 45 seconds of different vowels and consonants. I didn't even sing it. It's almost identical to what I sang. It's so scary. So back to the AI thing, it's like, I don't know, maybe people won't care anymore. Maybe it's only the sports world where you have to produce points on a field somewhere that proves, what you do. You go to ChatGPT right now, a country song, lamenting my Ford truck, my cowboy boots, my chick, my Ford truck left me, by the way, so, whatever. and it turns out this tune that's like, wow, that sounds like, and a good country artist, good, whatever that means these days, good country artist, whatever. So anyway, what's your next question? Where are we going with this?
Well, so listen, that's a lot about good stuff about your business and your techniques. Let's move over to some of our rock and roll idols. You talked about some of them, but I made a big list of things. These are just comments I've made and observations, okay? So we talked a little bit about Don Dokken and maybe Paul Stanley. And again, it's no knock on these guys, but Don's still out there on the road. He's still trying to keep Dokken up because the songs are great and Don had a great voice. But it's pretty evident to everybody that he's struggling out there. You know what? It gets to a point where you start to wonder with these guys is when does it become too much where maybe you got to say, guys, it's time to stop this. Jack Russell, you brought it up earlier, and unfortunately, we've heard that Jack has now a debilitating neurological condition that's going to progressively get worse. But ironically, he stepped aside and brought in Andrew Freeman to take his place in Jack Russell's Great White, which is a little weird if you think about it, but hey, whatever, it works. But it comes to the point,
by the way, Ken Neri is a good friend of mine who's the drummer of that band, who is one of the drummers playing on a lot of this stuff that you're hearing right now. So, but that's their call, not mine.
Yeah.
My call is just say, guys, you know what? We can rehabilitate. We can do certain things. If you screwed up and you drank yourself to death or you did some other thing or smoked yourself to death, we can only help you so much. It's up to you to decide if the Rolling Stones. Wow, Mick, dude. You drink Perrier and you have a personal trainer that works you out every single day. Good for you. Same thing with AC/DC. I mean, they're old and they've, but I remember there's the comedy thing. You guys got to watch this if you haven't seen it. And it was, what's his name that did the parody on the Hokey Pokey? Do you know what I'm talking about? There was no, you have to see this. Yeah. It's like really funny. But big comedian, not Jack Black. It was like not him. Brewer, Jim Brewer.
Yeah,
does this thing, and he goes, "And these guys are in their 50s." I'm like, "Oh, we're freaking in their 70s, and they're still doing it, right?" well, I don't know how well they've taken care of themselves, and maybe it's a genetic thing, whatever. But, man, kudos, dude, kudos. They're out there soon. And they're still kicking ASS all over, 25-year-olds that are in little boy bands that just can't sing.
Hey,
so
listen, you talk about AC/DC. I mean, Brian Johnson, he had hearing issues and it took him off stage. Axl had to take his place for a tour. They went away for a little bit. They came back. They recorded an album. And now they're back on tour. Again, Brian Johnson's in his 70s. And Ken, you talked about Steven Tyler, right? Steven Tyler, he's had some surgeries. He's conservative now where he's got to take a couple days off in between shows. So the Black Crowes have to go and fill their tour slots with shows in other areas. But these guys are out there still doing it. Like we said, Ronnie James Dio, he admitted, right? He never warmed up.
Irrelevant.
He didn't do anything. He was one of those freaks of nature. And yet you'll get guys like Bruce Dickinson, who overcame throat cancer, and Rob Halford, who's in his early 70s now. And Rob's still singing great. He's kicking ass. I saw him on the recent show
I know, I saw it too.
In Newark.
Oh,
fucking awesome,
I know.
right?
I know. I'm not that far away from that, so I better, talk the walk the talk, talk the walk, whatever. Do what I preach. You know what I mean? So I agree, man.
Well, and then you got guys like, let's see. Here's a couple of interesting ones too. Like, let's talk about David Lee Roth. Right now, Dave, like you mentioned, Ken, about going back to the Elton John days, early days. We never thought of him as a singer, or Paul McCartney. Well, that was my first rock concert, 1986, Edeman Smile at the Meadowlands Arena in New Jersey. I didn't care whether Dave sang. It was Van Halen songs. Edeman style songs were great. And Dave's up there in a boxing ring, climbing walls on the next tour on Skyscraper. He's up with the giant inflatable balloon. Dave never really sang. He scattered through his material. He had a great backing band where Steve Vai and Billy Sheehan could sing for him. A lot what David Coverdale has done, lining himself up with musicians. I think of a guy like Alice Cooper. Alice is an amazing performer, stage show. But what has he done, Ken? He's moved on through decades, and he brings in young, hot guys, hot girls. They can sing, they can play, they look cool. And Alice is up there doing his part, but the band's helping him play and do the singing for him.
I agree. And by the way, I remember, this is how old I am. I was 82. I forget. It was like a long time ago. I was at the Starwood. I think that was in Pasadena. It was a rainy Thursday night. All of us were scratching for record deals at the time. And I remember seeing Van Halen play there. There were probably 80 people in the room, maybe. And that's when they got their record deal. And the next thing you know, it was just Ted Templeton, Van Halen. It was just all of a sudden. I remember, as old as this grandpa talking, yes, of course, stories. I want to say I think it was the Troubadour. Yeah, it was a Troubadour. It was like BAM magazine. I think it was like a BAM magazine event. And, when Guns N' Roses, by the way, before they broke on KROQ, it was Tracy Guns N' Roses. Tracy Guns was on stage with with Slash. And, they're playing these songs and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then Axl walks up and they sing, it was Paradise City, I think it was. Oh, wow, that's a pretty good song. Ton Mastery starts promoting the heck out of it on KROQ. KNAC. Ouch. And next, like a month later, they're freaking signed. And 4 months later, they're playing the Forum. Like,
yeah.
But that's when it was electric and music was electric and people were on fire and they were just, and so it didn't matter. Like you talk about, David Lee Roth, and Sam is my cousin. And like I said, and so I was trying to juxtapose that whole issue because there's all these fights going back and forth. You know what the most interesting thing about that for me is that Van Halen started out as a party band. It's all they were was a party band. That's it, period. Sammy Hagar, post Montrose, was a tailgate party band. Both of them, party bands. When Sam joined Van Halen, they became corporate.
Yeah.
And they wrote corporate songs. And it was so weird because I'm like, what happened to I Can't Drive 55? They're good songs, good stuff, whatever. But the thing I missed the most about Van Halen was the happy, clappy party aspect of Van Halen. What I missed about Sam was, it became this corporation, and Sam actually, Mas Tequila and all of a sudden later he came back to the party band, tailgating, you're tailgating, that too, tailgate, party band. But how interesting that, they both worked in the party band and then they came together with it. And then again, it's true, they sold more records and this, that, with Sam, whatever. But no matter what, however you look at any of this stuff, you can say that about Boston being corporate, is that it was still amazing. Yeah. The times were amazing. The music was amazing. The concerts were amazing. Okay, so final story, and then I'm not sure because so my brother used to take me to these concerts when I was really young, and I mean really young, like 9, 10, 11 young. And I'll never forget this story because it was a huge part of my life. Actually, we still have like another 12 minutes because I have a session I've got to do after this.
Sure.
And I think it was America, Blue Oyster Cult. I forget who the opening act was. And then Humble Pie, which many don't even know that Peter Frampton came from Humble Pie.
Of
like
course.
He was a guitar player.
Yep.
Right. Well, yeah, you say that. Anyway, so I think it was Blue Oyster Cult blew out the PA. This is at the Forum in Los Angeles. And so they're trying to get it to work and there's curfew issues, and so I think it was like right around 9:00 and that was running late for them because of the surrounding area and stuff. Anyway, so everyone's smoking dope, including me as a small kid. I picked up my first joint when I was 6. It's a terrible thing. My brother introduced me to drugs really early on. Anyway, so we're smoking weed, and then one of those giant Led Zeppelin style bouncy balls were kind of going all over the arena and stuff. The lights are on, and all of a sudden, it's tip, 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 tip on a microphone. This guy walks out in blue jeans and a white t-shirt. Tip, 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 tip. And he goes, "Funny days." And it kind of gets everyone's attention. Tip, tip, tip. "Funny days." Tip, tip, tip. The lights go dark. About 10 seconds. Oh, and they bring in the 30 days off. Now that's their hit. Like you would have thought they would put the song later, but they didn't. It was the first song out. And I turned to my brother and I said, "I want to be that guy when I grow up." That's exactly what I said. He remembers this vividly. And he goes, "You don't even know how to play, Stairway to Heaven yet." Like, cause he was my guitar teacher as a kid. I said, no, I didn't know I even wanted to sing. Like, I just wanted to be Steve Marriott. 30 Days in the Hole. That was my man, whatever. Fast forward this a lot of years later, and I have to be really careful about how I share this story. I was asked to sing for Foreigner. A lot of bands, actually. And there's a lot of reasons it didn't work out, and it doesn't make sense to talk about it. But Kevin Jones, Mick Jones's brother, who is kind of his quasi-manager-y, guy, said, "Sorry, it didn't work out with Foreigner. Peter is looking for a singer for a new band that he's got. Would you come down and audition at his studio in Beverly Hills?" He had his apartment. They had a studio and apartment in Beverly Hills. So I go down there, and he starts playing me Humble Pie stuff. And I'm like, and at this time it was the Humble Pie reunion, but Marriott had just died 2 weeks before of a crack overdose, I think. Anyway, and so he says, I'm looking for a high-range singer. It's definitely not me, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, I want to play you some other stuff. And it was absolutely Steve Marriott. And it was absolutely not that great, unfortunately. And I said, with all due respect, he didn't know my backstory of that was my hero. I didn't even get time to go through this. And I said, can we do newer stuff? Let Steve stuff be Steve. And we do newer stuff. He goes, no, mate, as they say in show business, the show must go on. And the body was still warm. I'm like, I'm not trying to bash on Peter right now, but this actually happened, And so I said, this is Hollywood. So I said, well, I'd love to, but I just feel really weird, about redoing Steve's vocals over a month ago or whatever it was that, on the new songs you're doing to do this Humble Pie reunion, thing. And then I never got a call back. I never, it was just, that was it. You didn't fit the bill or, it didn't work out, whatever. And that's sort of that's the show. That's the dark side of the business.
Yeah.
The side of not leaving this on a dark note, the upside of this though is that I got to meet Peter Frampton. How cool is that? Got to hang for a minute with some guys from Foreigner and from that and all these other bands and, Motley Crue or whatever. And in the end, it was the most explosive time in music that it's indescribable. Everyone was forcing everyone else to be better. Forced Kansas to get better. Kansas forced, or Boston forced this band to get better. And it didn't matter who it was, everyone. And so here we are today going, Taylor Swift. Really? And she's the queen of the world. Okay.
That's right.
Let me just get this over with. You know what I mean? So hopefully we can bring some of that back. Hopefully KTVA is doing that to a very small degree. And hopefully I can inspire other people to do what they love and do it without AI and actually have some emotion behind why they do what they do.
Well, Ken, that's it's been a great hour with you. You're a plethora of knowledge, rock and roll stories. I've done my research. We've had a lot of fun. We could go on for hours, and we'll have to have you back on again. But bring us up to speed on your socials for the Vocal Academy. Any other things that you want fans to know about you?
I'm not a big plugger of myself. If you guys want to learn how to sing great, it's going to cost you. So plan on spending a lot of time on it. And I'm not going to be one of those guys that tell you you're going to take some pill and it's going to make you great. Ken Tamplin Vocal Academy.com. Check out my course there. Like I said, in fact, this month I'm doing I don't think I'll ever do this again. Hopefully there's a reason for that. But anyway, I'm going to try my course for $1 thing. I'm going to do it for 1 month. And then after that, it's $19 a month, staying as long as you like. Quit the next day if you don't like it. It's $20. It's not going to kill you. Just decide. By the way, you'll never finish it. No offense. I don't care how old you are. You'll never finish it. You'll never get to the end of this course. It's that big as far as the amount of information I put into it. I've had spent over $1 million on my voice with vocal coaches. So I've taken all that information. I put it all in one course called 3.0. It's a streaming course. Try it. And we're also Facebook. I'm on Facebook. There's several iterations of it, but I have 750K followers on my main Facebook page, 1.2 million on my YouTube, and 150, I think, on my Instagram, something like that. TikTok, not so much. I just kind of started it because it's a Chinese company, and I'm still not sure if I like that. But nonetheless, we're at 20 years and change. But just come check out what we're doing. Just enjoy the artist. If that's what you want, just come check out, some of my Gabriella Gachigaba, gotta check her out. Katie Shear, gotta check her out. Kayla Reeves, gotta check her out. Sarah Luera, except for her OnlyFans page, ignore that. But you gotta check her out. And everybody else in between. So
that's great. So just as a reminder, get up to our website, metalmayhemroc.com, and join our community by signing up for our email newsletter, as this is the best way to stay updated on new podcast episodes, such as this, what we're hearing now. Interviews on your YouTube channel, CD and concert reviews, as well as reminders to join us on our Monday night live radio show on Metal Devastation Radio. If you like what we're doing, please subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. So for my guest, Ken Tamplin, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.